And we begin with the latest on the funding or lack thereof with Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen of Miami, who, with the rest of Florida's congressional delegation, has lobbied for money and hosted Governor Rick Scott in Washington this week. Good morning, Congresswoman.
Thank you so much, Glenna. Thank you, Michael.
Congresswoman, great to have you come in. So here's the simple question. All 27 House members from Florida, you and your colleagues, Democrats, Republicans, Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Bill Nelson, Republican, Democrat, everybody is speaking with one voice, but you still can't get Congress to pass this bill. Why not?
Shame on us. I know. Well, that is the good news. The good news is that we're united, bipartisan, in seeing Zika as a threat to public safety and a real problem and a crisis and an emergency. The bad news is that's 29 of us out of 535. The other members of Congress and the other senators see Zika as a problem, as they saw Ebola as a problem,
but do they see
not
it as
an immediate threat.
A local problem?
No, it's as if a hurricane had hit Florida, and everybody knows, okay, we need to get you disaster funding, but they're not really riled up about it. Look at how long it took us to get help for the New York, New Jersey area, mostly after Hurricane Sandy. So we have got to keep working, and we will, united with one voice, saying we need to pass a bill with no policy riders, none of those poison pills, none of whatever pet projects you want, and give the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, the money that they want and that they need. We've been robbing them of this and that. Now Zika is coming, boom, against another battle up in D.C., which is the September 30th fiscal budget deadline.
So what we reported on this week was, and it's kind of in the weeds, a CR, a continuing resolution. When you say that on TV, it's eyes water. But that is the glaze over. But that's the continuing government emergency spending bill into which this Zika funding is going, not going? Where do we stand?
That's it. That's exactly it, Glenna. We first hoped and worked for a standalone Zika bill with the president's full funding of $1.9 billion. That left, and we were not able to get it. Now we have a continuing resolution, which is a stopgap, a funding measure that gets us to a certain point in time, this time December 9th, to when we go back in session and try to pass a longer bill. So Zika will be included in the continuing resolution. That sounds like good news.
For sure.
It has to. We have to fund the government. We cannot shut down the government. We've done that before. It's been horrible. We can't afford to do it. Zika will be included. Maybe it'll be $1.1 billion. But the problem is that Congress is working in such a not working. It's so dysfunctional that we look at deadlines and we say, oh, September 30th. We don't need to get it done till September 30th. And that's the problem we're facing. We're hoping that this is the week when we will get a CR out of the Senate, because the Senate goes first, and then we will pass it in the House. We will work toward that goal.
Now, we have just been seeing some video on the screen of you, your fellow members of the House, and I think Senator Bill Nelson was at that news conference as well, where you all came together this week. You were hosting Governor Rick Scott. I don't want to sound partisan here, but there was unanimity in the Florida congressional delegation, and Governor Scott shows up, and he really politicizes what had been depoliticized.
Well, that is true. I don't think that the governor understands that in our South Florida congressional delegation especially, we work together. Democrats, Republicans, House and the Senate, we don't throw stones at each other. That's not the way to get things done. And so in a moment, a press conference where we're talking about we're going to hold hands and keep fighting for Zika funding, he starts saying, I'm deeply ashamed and embarrassed, and how could Senator Nelson do this or that? And I said, Governor, this is not the time to call anybody out.
You kind of took him to task on that.
You know,
politely and diplomatically, I will say.
And this is just not the time. A pox on all of our houses for not getting the job done. We accept responsibility, but let's get it done. And the way to get it done is not to clobber each other's heads. This is a collegial body. We need to work together. and we need to replenish the coffers of the CDC.
Yeah, they run out of money at the end of the month.
It's shocking, it's alarming, and it's depressing that we haven't done our job. It's not too late. We need to do it, and we hope that this is the week.
So the onus now really is on the Senate and House leaders, Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. And, you know, as a member of that party, are they playing politics with this?
We have told Speaker Ryan and Mitch McConnell directly, personally, through letters, press conferences, any which way, smoke signals. This is important to the United States of America. This is important to the whole health situation of our hemisphere. It's not going to go away, and the CDC is such an important part of our healthcare system, along with the National Institutes of Health. We've got to replenish those funds, and we've got to pay local and state governments.
Right.
And Marco's got a good bill to help small businesses that have been impacted by Zika closures.
Before we run out of our time for this segment, we're so glad you're here, I want to bring up the subject of Donald Trump. On Friday night, I was covering his speech at this rally, and as you know, at that rally, he said, how many Cubans are here? There were quite a few, kind of surprisingly a lot, in my view. And he said, essentially, I totally oppose the deal, the policy of the Obama administration. I would have made a better deal, and I would never do business with the Castro government so long as there are political prisoners and no human rights. That's essentially your point of view. So is that going to bring you around? Because you're on record as not supporting Trump.
That's right. I'm not supporting the Democratic nominee, nor am I supporting the Republican nominee for president. I'm going to write in Jeb Bush. He was always my #1 choice. Yes, it's true. The plight of the Cuban people and their suffering is real, and it's serious. But the issue here, Michael and Glenna, is a consistency. This is the point of view now. A few months ago, the point of view was that it was a good deal.
Right.
The Iran deal now is not good, but a few months ago, it was a good deal, and he could have gotten a better deal. So what will be the policy next month and the month after that? So that's what I think that people will have to gauge, and I am very much at ease in my conscience in voting for the best man I think could be president and one day hope to be, and that is Jeb Bush. But let everyone decide for themselves. I'm not campaigning for or against anyone, and let's make sure that we remember that on that ballot, there are a lot of other important issues.
The down ballot races.
The down ballot.
And you're
Marco
one of them.
Rubio is one of them. I'm one of them, but whatever you do, race, whatever, but they're also further down the line. It's an important election, and the presidential is not the only ones. And Congress has a real role, whoever the new president is, in oversight responsibilities. So let's not forget that.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Glenna. See you in the D.C. hallways again.
Very soon.
Thank you, Michael.
Great to have you come in. Thank you so much.
When we come back, we're going to turn to a veteran medical doctor and a veteran medical reporter to sort out some truth from the myths about Zika that you've been hearing and discuss the level of danger posed by the chemicals being used to kill